Welcome to the House of Truth. Today we're continuing our series on the wild days of the judges. Last week we looked at the events right after the time of Samson with the religion of Micah and how he created this man-made, man-controlled religion for worshiping God that did many things that were contrary to the commandments of God. For example, he built idols and dedicated them to the Lord, Yahweh, Yahuwah, however you want to pronounce, however you think the Yahweh should be pronounced, or just we'll leave it at that. The Lord in English usually, and and they went and did this and created this man-made religion, and we saw how the people leading it, the priest, were appointed by despotism, his own based on a family, on family connections, based on credentials. And someone that said that sounds like they had really good credentials, but they weren't the right credentials required by Yahweh, Yahuwah, however you prefer, and and finally, just a political appointee, and how it's so much like so many religions today that worship God, but they're contrary to the instructions that He gave on how to worship Him. Well, now the day we're gonna go back in time a little bit, because the book of Judges is organized, tell about one judge after another. Then it's got a couple of stories at the end that occurred during the time of the judges, but that doesn't specify which judge they occurred in, and that's why they're placed to the end. But this one we're going to see occurred not long, uh, occurred during that period of peace, early on in the Judges, one of the first eras of peace after the 8 years of Mesopotamian oppression had ended. And it's about the wickedness of Gibeah we're going to talk about today. And we're going to begin here. We'll see connections to this and the other story, not in the timing of when it occurred. It's not right after, but in some of the details, there are some common connections. And we begin here in Judges 19, 1 through 4, where those become 1 through 4, and we'll see those verses 1 through 4. We'll see those are apparent here. And it came to pass in those days, and there was no king in Israel. There was a certain Levite sojourning on the side of Mount Ephraim, who took to him a concubine out of Bethlehem, Judah. And his concubine played the whore against him and went away from her into her father's house to Bethlehem, Judah, and was there 4 whole months. Her husband arose and went after her to speak friendly to her and to bring her again, having sent his servant with him and a couple of asses. And she brought him to her father's house. When the father of the damsel saw him, he rejoiced to meet him. And his father-in-law, the damsel's father, retained him. He abode there 3 days, so they eat and drink and lodged there. Okay, well, I said there's some tie-ins to our previous thing, not chronologically, but in other ways, including geographically. Remember, Micah was from Mount Ephraim, and the Levite who made a priest to make his religion seem more, who had better credentials to make his religion seem more legit, was a Levite from Bethlehem, Judah. And this refrain that was there about the story of Micah is here at the beginning of this one as well. There was no king in Israel, and notice that his concubine, the one he's married to, plays the whore against him. Well, last week they were playing the whore against God with the religion of Micah. So this compromise religion between it and the religion of the world, the religion of the Canaanites that had idolatry. We'll keep the idols, but we're going to rename them God, was basically the ideal. But it was still playing the whore against God. And playing the whore, and there's this expression, I want to bring this expression to your attention, played the whore. The whore in English, in English, particularly in earlier in even a couple hundred, even 100 years ago or so, has a different connotation than just a prostitute. Now they are both for selling sexual service for money, but the prostitute, that's just it. It's just a business. But the whore has this connotation of someone who will sell you out for money as well, like we saw Samson, like we saw Delilah do with Samson. Okay, so this woman has played the whore against this Levite, who as we discussed last week, is holier than the other people of Israel, provided he's doing what he's supposed to do. He has these other restrictions on him. He's keeping them. He's holier, closer to God than them. And so this is a representation of Israel in a way, a picture of that. Well, so now notice there for 4 whole months. Now, because we'll see that reoccur also later. So now he went. Notice her husband, a concubine, is a wife is only different a wife in that with a wife the girls are virgin typically, and you're joining 2 families together. And this concubine, she may not have been a virgin to start with. We don't know. She could have been. She was a previous man's wife, and he had died, and she remarried. And in those cases, the bride price wasn't paid. I'm aware, wasn't paid, and you weren't joining 2 families together in the same sense that you were with a marriage. So her husband arose and went to speak to her. And now, so he decides he's going to bring her. He wants to bring her. He wants to give her back, bring her back. He's forgiven her. And her father-in-law was in the stay 3 days. And of course, then you see that 3 days, it should remind you of the death, burial, and resurrection. There's always a tie into it, which I won't always go into. In Numbers 19, 5 through 9, we see the following. And then it came to pass on the 4th day, when they rose early in the morning, they arose to depart, and the damsel's father said to his son-in-law, comfort your heart with a morsel of bread, and afterward go your way. And they sat down to eat and drink both together. And for the damsel's father said to the man, be content, I pray, and tarry all night, and let your heart be merry. When the man rose up to depart, his father-in-law urged him, therefore he lodged there again. He rose early in the morning in the 5th day to depart, and the damsel's father said, comfort your heart, I pray you. And they tarried till afternoon, and they did eat both of them. The man arose up to depart, he and his concubine, his servant. His father-in-law, the damsel's father, said unto him, behold, now the day draws towards evening. I pray you tarry all night. Behold, the day grows to an end. Lodge it, and your heart may be merry. Tomorrow get you on early on your way, that you may go home. Okay, so the father-in-law, perhaps this is all the family he has. This daughter, perhaps there's perhaps that's all there is to it. And he plainly doesn't want her to leave. He keeps dragging this out, staying, getting him in the later. So now he's supposed to be there 3 days. He's 2 days late, probably has business to take care of back home, needs to get home. And the father-in-law tells him, it says, look, Now it's late. It's really not safe for you to travel. Just stay here one more night and you go in the morning. But the trouble is, like we've seen before, he's told him this. He keeps telling the same thing and dragging the thing out. It's pretty obvious. So we're looking at how this man this man of Mount Ephraim. Did I bring that out here? Yeah, sojourn. This Levite of Mount Ephraim, see how he tarries, which is also where Micah lived in Mount Ephraim. But the man would not tarry. All right, so in Judges 19:10 through 14, read the following. The man would not tarry that night, but arose to the part and came over against Jabesh, which is Jerusalem or Jerusalem, and there were with him 2 asses saddled, his concubine also with him. And then when they were by Jabes, the day was far spent, and the day was far spent, he said to his master, servant said to his master, come, I pray you, and let us turn to the city of the Jebusites, Jebusites, and lodge in it. He said, we will not turn here into the city of a stranger, son of the children of Israel. We'll pass over to Gibeah. He said to his servant, come, let us draw near to one of these places to lodge all night in Gibeah or in Ramah. And they passed on and went their way, and the sun went down upon them when they were by Gibeah, which belongs to Benjamin. Okay. Gibeah means a hill, literally, just a hill, okay? So, the Jebusites lived here. Remember, in Jerusalem, it had been taken twice before, but they keep the people, Benjamin and Judah, Benjamin has kept refusing to occupy it, and of course, it gets refilled with more Jebusites, which is what happened, which is what's going on here, and so it's a city of Jebusites surrounded by cities. Here's Bethlehem, just 8 miles down south of Jerusalem. Down here, this Gibeah is up here, just barely about 3 miles north of Jerusalem, of the old city of Jerusalem. Around that area, 3.5 miles, according to Josephus. It was 30 stadia, 30,000, 30 stadia. The stadia was 600 pedes. But anyways, it works about 3.5 miles, just north of there. And Ramah is just a little further than that. So, well, the sun's going down, so it'll be hard to travel in dark. So it looks like Gibeah. Again, literally means hill. It is, because he's concerned about the Jebusites, because he perhaps doesn't feel safe there living among these Canaanites, and believes it'll be safer for him to be among the people of Israel instead, Israelites who are in Gibeah or Ramah. So let's continue on, see how this works out for him. As we continue on Judges 19, verses 15 through 19. They turned aside to go in and to lodge in Gibeah. And when he went in, he sat him down in a city of the street of the city. There was no man that took him into his house to lodging. And behold, there came an old man from his work out of the field at even, which is also Mount Ephraim, and he sojourned in Gibeah. But the men of the place were Benjamites. Lifted up his eyes, and he saw a wayfaring man in the street. And the old man said, where is it you go? Where are you going? Where have you come from? From where have you come? And he said unto them, we are passing from Bethlehem, Judah, towards the south side of Mount Ephraim. From thence am I. And I went to Bethlehem, Judah, but I'm now going to the house of the Lord, and there's no man to receive me to house. Yet there's both straw provided for our asses, and there's bread and wine for me also for me and for my handmaid, for your handmaid, and for the young man it was with your servants. There's no want of anything. . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . So, so they're they're in there, and no one will let them in, will let them stay, even though they don't require anything more than just a place to lay down and sleep. The people of Genj, the people of Gibeah are not hospitable at all. When it was not uncommon to have show hospitality and bring people in. And also, if you couldn't, it was uncommon for you to sleep in the street. And notice he's going to the house of the Lord. He's going to Bethel. And remember, we talked about how the Levites were assigned cities, but they could go to where the house of the Lord was to work there. It was their only real relocation option, as it were. As the cities were their inheritance, they weren't like the other tribes where land in the city could just transfer from person to person. And the inheritance was outside the cities. In their case, it was in the cities, and that's where they were, to live in the assigned city. But they could relocate to where to where the temple was, and perhaps he had done this. This man appears to be operating, a believer in God, and operating in line with, and operating with not like with the religion of Micah, but with the religion of the Lord given through Moses. And we'll see that, and that'll become apparent as we go along, because everything he does is in line with that. Now, in Judges 19, 20 through 22, we've gotten a little foreshadowing. Something's not right here in Gibeah. But we're going to get some more. This can become much clearer here in verses 20 through 22. And the old man said, "Peace be with you. Howsoever, let all your wants lie upon me. Only nodge not in the street." And he brought him into his house and gave provender to the asses, and they washed their feet, and eat and drink. Now as they were making their hearts merry, behold, the men of the city, certain sons of Belial, he set the house round about and beat the door, and spake to the master of the house, the old man, saying, "Bring forth the man out that came into your house, that we may know him." Okay, sons of Belial. Belial's, it's kind of like saying sons of Satan. Okay. And we've seen this before a long while back with Sodom and Gomorrah. How when the angels came to Lot, there was the same. The Sodomites had done the same sort of thing. They demanded that Lot put his guest out, and but Chesedim is loving kindness, but Chesedim is hospitality, literally loving kindness, plural kindnesses. But it's hospitality. It requires, when he brings this man to his house, he's guaranteeing protection for him, and that's what they're speaking to him. So they want to do not protect this man so they may know him, and by know him they mean sexually. They want to rape this man. Again, like Sodom and Gomorrah. Well, let's continue on in Judges 19, 23 to 27, and see what they do about this problem. Again, verse 23 through 27. And the man of the master's house went out unto them and said unto him, "Nay, my brethren, I pray you, do not so wickedly. See, this man is come into my house, do not this folly. Behold, here is my daughter, a maiden, and his concubine. I'll bring them out now and humble them, and will do with them what seems good to you. But unto this man, do not so vile a thing." But the men would not hearken to him, and the man took his concubine and brought her forth to them. And they knew her and abused her all night until the morning. And when the day began to spring, they let her go. Then the woman came in the dawning of the day and fell out at the door of the man's house where her Lord was, until it was light. And her Lord rose in the morning, opened the door, and opened the doors of the house, and went out to go his way. The woman, his concubine, was fallen down at the house of the door, and her hands were upon the threshold. Okay, so and this begins a reoccurring theme we're going to see throughout this entire story about the wickedness of Gibeah. You notice this man wants to offer his daughter, to protect him. He'll even offer his daughter in the concubine. But the Levite, but the Levite, the man took his concubine. Notice that's the Levite, and put her out there. He's protecting the daughter of this man's given hospitality, who's a virgin. Remember, his concubine had played the whore, had been with other men. So now it's coming back on her. She's going to be with lots of other men, and they raped her and abused her. No, they're perhaps beating her as well. They're raping her every possible man, maybe three or four guys on there, two or three guys on there at one time. And they're just absolutely brutalizing her because rape is an act of violence. So, and that was when the day began to spring, they let her go. When they got where people could see who was doing this to her, they all left her off. They probably knew, at least some of them knew some of the other people involved. But again, it's the men of the city, and the rest of them, if there were some who did nothing to stop it. And that's another reoccurring theme we're going to see in this story, because in the law that God gave Moses, it's Leviticus 5, I believe, verses 1 through 3. If you see evil going on, and you don't do everything in your power to stop it, including in the exact context of there, going to the authorities, okay, God holds you equally accountable as if you had done it. So if someone's getting beat down, you're just out there, you're out there with your smartphone videoing it to put on the air, hoping it'll go viral, instead of using it to call the police or doing something else to stop this violence. In God's law, you are equally guilty as the one who was beating the guy down. And if they beat that man to death, not only would he be executed, but so would you for not stopping it, not doing what you could to stop it. So this whole city is guilty of abusing this concubine who had once been with other men, and now it came back on her in a terrible way. And though she's reaching for her husband, calls her her Lord. Now, the word Lord and husband is often the same word in Hebrew and in related languages. So there's a little, and that protects this other girl who was innocent completely, a maiden. The guilty being punished to protect the innocent. But for them to have raped a man would have been even worse. So let's continue on in Judges 19, verse 28 through 30. They said to her, "Up and let us be going." But none answered. Then the man took her upon an ass, and the man rose up and gat him into his place. And when he came to his house, took a knife and laid hold his concubine and divided her together with her bones into 12 pieces and sent them to all the coast of Israel. And so it was that all that saw it said, "There's such deed not seen or done or seen from the day the children of Israel came out of the land of Egypt to this day. Consider it, take advice, and speak your minds." Okay, each of these tribes, they have a prince. As we saw, like I think it's Nashon was prince of Judah in the time of when they came into the promised land, and so what he's done is he said his servant or perhaps some others he's cut her in pieces and sent one piece with a note about with some sort of note about about the men of Gibeah or whatever, some sort of note about injustice been done to all the leaders of all these 12 tribes. Now, I wouldn't count Levite because remember they're scattered all over the place in there, but the other tribes, he sent one to each of their priests, and remember the Levites also were not allowed to go to war, and God might use them in the capacity of blowing trumpets, but not actually fighting. So he sent this to these other 12 tribes. Now we're looking at their response as we go to Judges 20, verses 1 through 3. Then all the children of Israel went out, and the congregation was gathered together as one man, from Dan even to Beersheba, with the land of Gilead, unto the Lord in Mizpah. And the chief of all the people, even all the tribes of Israel, presented themselves an assembly to the people of God, 400,000 footmen that drew the sword. Now, children of Benjamin heard the children of Israel were gone up to Mizpah. Then said the children of Israel, tell us, how was this wickedness? Okay, so let them know that wickedness has happened. Wickedness has happened. And notice the children of Benjamin heard, they knew, but they didn't go up there. And Mizpah, remember, means watchtower, and it's kind of like the hill Tara in the days of Ireland before, like in the days of St. Patrick, where these kings over little cities. But when there was trouble, they would all gather in Tara, or there was some sort of national event to pick up the next high king or whatever. They'd all go there. Well, it's the same with Mizpah, the watchtower. So they've all gone there. Dan referencing that city from last time. It wasn't called Dan at that time, but it was called that at the time of the writing. On the north, Beersheba to the far south, and then Gilead shows the people on the east in the eastern promised land as well as the western promised land. So everyone has shown up but Judah. And they want to know, what is this wickedness that you say must be avenged? So we continue here in Judges 20 through verses 4 through 7 and read the following. The Levite, the man of the woman that was slain, answered and said, I came into Gibeah that belongs to Benjamin, I and my concubine to lodge. And the men of Gibeah rose up against me and beset the house round about by night, and thought to have slain me. And my concubine they have forced, that she is dead. And I took my concubine, cut her in pieces, and all the country and inheritance of Israel. They have committed lewdness and folly in Israel. Behold, you are all the children of Israel. Give here your advice and counsel. Okay, so he's let them know what happened, and why cut this woman up was to get their attention, to get their attention and their help in avenging this injustice. But he didn't know how they're going to respond. But his plan to get them there was successful, except for Benjamin refused to show up. So we'll continue on Judges 20, verses 8 through 13, and we'll look at their response. And all the people arose as one man, saying, we will not go any of us into our tent, nor take any of us his turn into his house. Neither will any of us turn into his house. But this is the thing which we shall do to Gibeah. We will go up by lot against it. We will take 10 men of 100 throughout all the tribes of Israel, 100 out of 1,000, 1,000 out of 10,000 to fetch victual for the people. They may do that when they come to Gibeah of Benjamin, according to all the folly they have wrought in Israel. So the men of Israel were gathered against the city, knit together as one man. And the tribes of Israel sent men throughout all the tribe of Benjamin, saying, what is this wickedness is done among you? Now deliver us the men, the children of Belial, which are in Gibeah, when they put them to death and put away evil from Israel. The children of Benjamin would not hearken to the voice of their brethren, the children of Israel. Okay, no one's going to go home till this is taken care of, is what they're saying. and they're going to take a tenth of them, a tithe, which would be 400,000 people, to go back to their places to fetch food. That's what victual means, food, but supplies in case there's a long siege there of Gibeah. Okay. They're determined to put an end to this. And now they're trying to solve this peaceably with Benjamin. Look, just bring us the men who did this. They'll be put to death, and that'll be it. We all go home. But Benjamin's refusing to do it. Now, by refusing, they know they know what's happened, and but refusing to not bring justice to these people by executing them as the Torah, the law of God says. They have made themselves co-guilty with the men of Gibeah. So they've been forced to choose between obeying God and handing these men over of this one town to be executed for their crime, or to resist or to fight against God through the judgment of God. And they refuse to join. So here's what they do instead. In Judges 20, verses 14 through 17, read the following. The children of Israel of Benjamin gathered themselves together out of the cities of Gibeah to go out to battle against the children of Israel. And the children of Benjamin were numbered at that time out of the cities 26,000 men that drew sword, besides the inhabitants of Gibeah, which numbered 700 chosen men. Among all those people were 700 chosen men left-handed. One could sling a stone at a hair's breadth and not miss. And the children of Israel, besides Benjamin, were numbered 400,000 men that drew the sword. All these were men of war. Okay, even counting the fact that 40,000 of them were off getting victuals, it's 360. Benjamin still outnumbered 14-1. But they got, so I grew up, serious short man's disease. They're like, we'll take you all on. And part of their confidence is, remember, these guys have swords that drew the sword. These guys, 700 of them, are experts at slinging stones. They do not miss. And I watched a demonstration of someone slinging a stone online. It takes about, they twist their whole body around. It took about 3 seconds or so from when they put the stone on the rock till they released it. But it actually had to penetrate, it went through a piece of metal, and the hard stone has the same penetrating power as a 357 Magnum. So, this is what the people of Benjamin are perhaps counting on, that everyone else is bringing a sword to a gunfight, a knife to a gunfight. So they're not concerned about the fact they're outnumbered. And again, they're ready to defend these the wicked men of Gibeah, instead of they're on the side of evil instead of the side of good, and the side of good, and the side of God. Now let's continue on in Judges 20, verse 18 through 21. Read the following. The children of Israel rose and went up to the house of God and asked counsel of God, and said, which of us shall go up first to the battle against the children of Benjamin? And the Lord said, Judah shall go up first. And the children of Israel rose in the morning and encamped at Gibeah. And the men of Israel went out to battle against Gibeah, against Benjamin. And the men of Israel put themselves in array to fight against them at Gibeah. And the children of Benjamin came forth out of Gibeah and destroyed down to the ground the Israelites, that 22,000 men. Okay, so notice Judah shall go up first. Now, first I want you to notice they went to the house of God, Shiloh, which isn't very far from where they're at, and asked the Lord. And he said, "Send Judah first." Typical, and perhaps that means at the front line to lead the battle, because all of them went up. Well, all of them went up, but notice all I've done is ask counsel the Lord here. And notice that the Lord tells them to do this, and notice that 22,000 of them are destroyed. Oh, what's this about? Well, all they did was, they asked counsel of God. He told them to put Judah first. He knew that there 22,000 were going to be destroyed. And it's 22,000. Benjamin, as far as casualties, Benjamin 0, everyone else 22,000. But God knew this was going to happen. Why? Because he's using Benjamin. Remember, the rest of Israel is not doing right either. And and remember what he says: when you're not walking my statutes and commandments, and you're rebelling against me, I'll hand you over to your enemies to destroy you. Well, their enemy now is one of the tribes of Israel, Benjamin. So he is now destroyed 22,000 of those who will not are unrepentant among the people of Israel. Now in Judges 20, verse 20 to 25, we're going to see what happens the next day, how they respond to this. And the men of Israel encouraged themselves to set their battle array in the place where they put themselves in array in the first day. And the children of Israel went up and wept before the Lord till evening, and asked counsel of the Lord, saying, "Shall I go up to battle against the children of Israel, Benjamin my brother?" And the Lord said, "Go up against him." And the children of Israel came near to the children of Benjamin the second day. And the Benjamin went forth against them out of Gibeah the second day, and destroyed to the ground the children of Israel, 18,000 men. All these drew the sword. Okay, so they got their rock slingers. Again, it takes about 3 seconds. I was watching the guy do this. So let's say, they can get maybe 20 rocks out per minute, going out there, and they don't miss. These guys are a force to be reckoned with. And Benjamin is now also, again, 0 for casualty for Benjamin, 18,000, 40,000 now of that 400,000, a tithe, a tenth, have been destroyed. And notice this time they wept before the Lord and asked counsel. They expressed sorrow for what they've done and asked and pled it with him. And we've seen this pattern before. And we know it's because they haven't taken this far enough with the Lord. So now he has used Benjamin to destroy 18,000 more of the wicked from among the rest of them. 1/10 of them were destroyed, just as the concubine, the penalty God gives for adultery is death. But you have to have 2 witnesses. Perhaps the Levite didn't have that. But she reaped what she sowed when she was destroyed. When she was destroyed by other men that weren't her husband, raped her, and she ended up dying. Well, now these people first they just asked the Lord, "Oh Lord, what do we do?" And then they're, "Oh Lord, we're sorry. What do we do?" But it's not sufficient. And he's destroyed some more of the rebels among them. He's used Benjamin to do so. And in verse 20, 26 to 29, we're now going to see a difference as we read this. Then the children of Israel, all the people went up and came to the house of the Lord and wept and sat there before the Lord and fasted that day till evening and offered burnt offerings and peace offerings before the Lord. And the children of Israel inquired of the Lord, for the ark of the covenant was there in those days. And Phinehas, the son of Eleazar, the son of Aaron, stood before it in those days, saying, Shall I yet go in go shall I yet again go out to battle against the children of Benjamin, my brother, or shall I cease? The Lord said, go up, for tomorrow I'll deliver them into your hand. And Israel set liers in wait about Gibeah. Okay, now we got our time reference. But first, let's focus. We'll talk about that, and then we'll focus on the main point. Notice, Phinehas, the son of Eleazar, stood before the ark in those days. They've gone to the house of the Lord again, and the right man's doing it. This is the religion of God, not the religion of Micah in operation here. Not a man-made, man-controlled religion that operates under man's rules for worshiping God, but a God-made, God-controlled religion that operates by God's rules for worshiping Him. They're at the right place with the right leader, with the right religious leader there, and that tells us when this was, because it gives us a very good clue. Because when Joshua died was the same year that Eleazar had died the same time, we were told in Judges. I mean, at the end of Joshua, and Phinehas became the high priest at that point. And I looked at how many there were between him and the temple, and on average there were 40 years. So Phinehas, there's a question mark there, but this is about the right time, about 40 years. If he had, they're more or less equal. And Gibeah was 1 week before there. So it's in this piece under Othniel when this is occurring. Okay, they've been delivered from the Mesopotamian oppression in Othniel, Caleb's nephew. Caleb married into Caleb's family, who was the next judge. During his time as judge is when this is occurring. But notice their difference. This is the main thing. They went up, came to the house of the Lord and wept, seen that, and sat there before the Lord and fasted till evening. Fasting like this is repentance, sign of repentance. Like in the Day of Atonement, like Israel will do when they call out Baruch Hashem Adonai, they'll go to the tabernacle, blow the trumpet in Zion, declare a holy fast, a fast of repentance. Now they're repenting. Before they just asked, they just asked God. Then they wept about they were sorry and asked God, but there was no repentance. But now there's repentance, and notice the burnt offerings and peace offerings, the sacrifices that bring peace with God. And this is just like what we read in the Brit Hadashah, the New Testament. It says, if we confess our sins, He's faithful and just to forgive us. And if we say we repent, 7 times 70 or 70 times 7, we have to. There's no forgiveness without admission of sin and a promise to turn from it, repentance, and sorrow over it. Fasting is also referred to as afflicting the soul. It's a sign of sorrow over weeping, not because they felt disaster, but weeping over their sin. And now they get a whole different response from the Lord. I promise I will deliver them into your hand. They want to know if they should continue this or just give up the fight. So now apparently God's given them some instruction, perhaps through Othniel had mentioned him. He is the judge, and they set some liars in wait round about Gibeah. They're going about this entirely different. Before, remember, they were going up there, and the Gibeonites were holed up in the Benjamites. Sorry, were holed up in Gibeah, and they would come out and fight them. But now they're going to go a different tactic altogether. Again, a divinely inspired tactic. God's plans work because they're His plans, and we'll see how they work here as we continue on in Judges 20, verse 30 through 33. And the children of Israel went up against the children of Benjamin on the third day, and they put themselves in array against Gibeah as at other times. And the children of Israel went out, and the children of Benjamin went out against the people, and were drawn away from the city, and they began to smite the people and kill as at other times in the highways which goes up to the house of God. Which one goes up to the house of God and the other to Gibeah in the field, about 30 men. And the children of Israel said, they have smitten down before us. They are smitten down before us at first. The children of Benjamin, I'm sorry. And the children of Israel said, let us flee and draw them from the city into the highways. All the men of Israel rose by their place, put themselves in array at Baal Tamar, and the liers in wait of Israel came forth out of their places, even the metals of Gibeah. Okay, we're going to get a little more details of this little fight here in a minute, but this kind of gives us the summary first. Third day, they went out and did the same thing, except they got those liers in wait, a few of them, and they're hanging in there. And we'll see, we'll get an idea about what time of year it is when they're out there, but the grass is tall enough to hide them. We'll just say this. And the children of Benjamin went out and were drawn away from the city. Okay, so remember before, they just came outside the city and were fighting just outside the city. They drawn away, and now we got this. There's these highways, these two roads. A fork in the road is there's a place with these roads. One goes up towards Shiloh, and one towards Gibeah. And about 30 men of Israel die. Perhaps 30 of them just weren't sincere the day before. Who knows? Again, the Lord's been using their enemy to destroy the wicked from among them, as he said he would. But now it's about to turn. After they drew Benjamin away from the walls of Gibeah, these liers in wait come out of these meadows. And again, the grass is tall enough that they just lay down, be still, wouldn't see. And we don't have any in the word, but there wasn't a lot of them. Because didn't need to be a lot of them. 1,000, maybe much less. Well, let's continue in Judges 20, verse 34 through 37. And there came against Gibeah 10,000 chosen men out of all of Israel. And the battle was sore, but they knew not that evil was near them. And the Lord smote Benjamin before Israel. And the children of Israel destroyed the Benjamites that day, 25,100 men. All these drew the sword. So the children of Benjamin saw they were smitten, for the men of Israel gave place to the Benjamites, because they trusted unto the liers in wait, which they set before Gibeah. Liers in wait hasted and rushed upon Gibeah, and the liers in wait drew themselves along and smote all the city with the edge of the sword. Okay, again, we're getting this summary here. Now remember, Benjamin has 26,600 altogether, and out of that 26,600, 25,100 of them die in this battle. It's not going well with all of them. Today it's about 30. It's 25,100 for Benjamin. Benjamin died versus about 30 for Israel. The battle has definitely turned. So they had ran off from these to draw them away. When they did, they went into the city and killed everyone that's left in the city. Remember, everyone in the city is guilty. They didn't stop it. They didn't do anything. Even if they couldn't do it, the men, someone could have tried to gone outside and ran for help from their town or something. But the host city is guilty. The host city is now died for rape, for their part in the crimes of rape and murder. Now in Judges 20, verse 38 through 42, read the following. We see So we're gonna get a little more detail. We're starting getting more details about the summary we just finished. There was a point assigned between the men of Israel and the liars in wait that should make a great flame with smoke rise up out of the city. When the men of Israel retired in the battle, Benjamin began to smite and kill the men of Israel, about 30 people. For they said, surely they are smitten down before us in the first battle. When the flame began to rise out of the city with a pillar of smoke, the Benjamites looked behind and behold, the flame of the city ascended to heaven. Then the men of Israel turned again. And when the men of Israel turned again, the men of Benjamin were amazed. They saw that evil was come upon them. Therefore, they turned their backs before the men of Israel on the way under the way of the wilderness. But the battle overtook them, and they which came out of the cities they destroyed in the midst of them. Okay, so Benjamin thinks they're running away again. They're winning. And then suddenly the people that they're chasing stop and start running towards them instead of away from them. And they see that the city behind them is on fire and realize they've been had. That it was all a trick to get them away from the city so the city could be destroyed. And they realize that no longer are they the instruments of God to destroy the wicked from among the rest of Israel, but now God has turned and using Israel to destroy the wicked among Benjamin. So they're running out to the wilderness, but most of them are not going to escape, and thus we see why. And notice anyone that came out in these cities, anyone that fled out of the cities, they also people watching those cities and destroyed and killed whoever came out of the cities as well. Because remember, all of Benjamin is guilty, as if they had all murdered and raped this woman. We continue on Judges 20, verses 43 through 48. And they enclosed the Benjamites round about and chased them and drove them down with ease over against Gibeah towards the sun rising. There fell of Benjamin 18,000 men. All these were men of valor. They turned and fled towards the wilderness into the rock of Rimmon, and they gleaned of them in the highways 5,000 men, and pursued hard after them to Gidom, and slew 2,000 of them. So there which fell that day of Benjamin were 25,000 men that drew the sword. All these were men of valor. But 600 men turned and fled to the wilderness of the rock of Rimmon, and then abode in the rock of Rimmon 4 months. And the men of Israel turned again to the children of Israel upon the children of Benjamin, and smote them with the edge of the sword, as well as the men of every city, as the beast, all that came to hand, and all that came to hand. They also set on fire all the cities that they came to. Okay, so we see 3 groups of these in Benjamin falling. 18,000 fell in the battle areas. They're running away in the highways, and some are running along the highways to escape, and 5,000 of them die there. And 2,000 of them, they're going to the city Gidom. Perhaps they believe that they can take refuge there, and 2,000 of them die there. They are in this city, and the city provides them there's no protection from the judgment of God. And remember, this judgment, and notice the judgment here is on all of Benjamin. Now remember we looked at this before in the Torah, in the law. God said if someone, remember, tries to turn you to another god, we looked at this when we talked about Achan, and disobeys God, and their family knows about and does nothing, the whole family's guilty, and they're all to be destroyed. And this principle goes on out. It says there be a family, a clan, a city, or a whole tribe. Benjamin has chosen to be on the side against God, has picked their own flesh and blood, despite their wickedness, over God. And now the whole tribe has become guilty. And again, the law provided for the whole tribe to be destroyed. Because we're this. Remember, where did this homosexuality come from? Sodom, Gomorrah is the first places, and it's implied about Noah's son Canaan as well. He knew Noah's nakedness. It's a reference to perhaps he sexually raped Noah as well. So now they've made themselves all guilty, and the judgment of God is coming upon them. Again, everything done according with the law of God. And the takeaway here is when evil's done, you either are on the side of either going to stand against it, do what you can against it, whether that's reporting to the authorities or stepping in yourself or whatever, or you're on the side and you're on the side of God, or you don't do anything and you're on the side of evil. You can be you're passively on the side of evil if you're not actively on the side against it. So we continue in Judges 21 verses 1 through 4. Now the men of Israel had sworn in Mizpah, saying, there shall not any of us give his daughter to Benjamin a wife. And the people came. Oh, I forgot about that little detail. I'm gonna bring it up to you. Notice how long they're in this rock Ramon. And Ramon means pomegranates. Okay. Now they're there 4 months. Remember, 4 months was how long the concubine was with her father before this Levite had come to get her. So her 4 months of exile is now repeated on these 600 men. They're up there. They're there, and no one's going to come. And the men of Israel can't go to this rock Ramon because, well, these guys don't have slings and they don't miss. There's plenty of rocks to throw down at them. They're going to be up there for 4 months, just as she had been up there 4 months. And this helps us determine the time of year when that battle occurred. And we'll get back to that because we'll have to go backwards from another event we see. Then the children of Israel had sworn in Judges 21, verse 1 through 4, we read about a problem they realize they have. Now the children of Israel had sworn in Mizpah, saying, shall any of us give his daughter to Benjamin to wife? And the people came to the house of God and abode there until evening before God, with their voice, and wept sore. And said, O Lord God, why has this come to pass? There should be one tribe lacking in Israel. And it came to pass on the morrow, the people rose up early and built there an altar and offered burnt offerings and peace offerings. Okay, now they're really interceding for Benjamin. Now they've made this oath. And Phinehas did nothing wrong. In fact, God said he was righteous and righteousness forever. So the rabbis will criticize, well, he should have stopped them from making this oath. No, he couldn't stop them from making the oath. He can't annul it. The only one can annul it. Well, a man can't annul another man's oath, period. Not even the high priest. Only a woman's oath can be annulled by her husband or her father if she's not married on the day they hear it. Phinehas had no power to annul their oath. And Phinehas, and they're destroying Israel Benjamin, all the way down to these 600 men, have been in line with God's law and the will of God. God said, remember, the Lord said, I will hand them over to you. The Lord is the one who's behind this destruction of Benjamin for their wickedness. It wasn't a failure of Phinehas to prevent them or anyone else. But now this judgment's come, and these 4 months have passed. Now they've had a change of heart and they're interceding for them. And notice, burnt offerings and burnt offerings before, but not so much for themselves today now as for those 600 remaining men of Benjamin. In Judges 21, verse 5 to 7, read the following. The children of Israel said, who is there among the tribes of Israel that came not up into the congregation of the Lord? So they made a great oath concerning him that came up to the Lord to Mizpah, saying, he shall surely be put to death. And the children of Benjamin repented to them for Benjamin their brother, and said, there is one tribe cut off from Israel this day. How shall we do for wise that remain, seeing we have sworn to the Lord not to give them of our daughters to wives? Okay, so they're looking to see who hasn't shown up because they'd made this great oath. And it's the second oath they'd made. Okay, back to the third. Remember, they said they wouldn't go back to their houses to this business, so they avenged the Levite's concubine. They made this oath here, and we looked at Jephthah. Just because you make a foolish oath doesn't mean you can. There's no takebacks, and there's no one else who can annul it. So now they're back in right fellowship with God and worshiping God, and aren't about to break their oath. But it's a problem. Well, this oath about the wives, but there's also this other oath that's a problem. Don't have wives, and we said anyone didn't come, we put to death. And we saw this under Joshua too. We didn't obey Joshua's orders, was put to death. Same sort of scenario. Remember, Othniel is the judge during this time. In Judges 21, verses 8 through 12, read the following. They said, what one is there of the tribes of Israel that came not up to Mizpah to the Lord? And behold, there came none to the camp from Jabeshgilead to the assembly. For the people were numbered, and behold, there was none of the inhabitants of Jabeshgilead there. And the congregation sent to there 12,000 men of the valiantest, and commanded them, saying, go and smite the inhabitants of Jabeshgilead with the edge of the sword, with the women and the children. And this is the thing you shall do: you shall utterly destroy every male and every woman as slain by man. They found among the inhabitants of Jabeshgilead 400 young virgins that had known no man by lying the female. They brought them to the camp of Shiloh, which is in the land of Canaan. Okay, remember earlier here, they destroyed all the cities of Benjamin with fire. Remember, like Jericho, total destruction of the city, showing the judgment of God on it. Well, it was different times. Sometimes the judgment of God allowed women that were virgin girls to be spared in other cases. And that's what's going on here. Valiantness, it means bravest or most fit, You can kind of think of these people perhaps as the special forces among the 360,000 of Israel. These are 1 in 30 of them, okay, of these men. And they go there and they kill everyone except these young virgins. And they're brought to the camp to Shiloh. That's where the tabernacle's at. Okay, so that takes care of 400 wives for these 600 men. But there's another problem. And Jabeshgilead, remember, is right over here. Here's Gilead, this mountainous area here in East Manasseh. Remember, both sides showed up of the Jordan, but one town didn't. So they killed it and destroyed the town. They kept the young women alive. Actually, they didn't destroy the town. They didn't set on fire. They just killed the people and took the. So now there's 400 girls for 600 boys is not sufficient. So they still need some more, and they're going to have to figure out how to get them. Now, what they refuse them to do is, remember, they're operating under the law of Moses, the law God gave Moses. And they could have said, "We'll go kill some Canaanites to get their women," but God's law said, "We will not kill." I mean, that said they were not to marry those who were idol worshippers. So the thought has never entered their head, because they're back to doing things God's way. They're in the religion of God, not often idolatry as they had been, and not operating like they're in the religion of Micah that comes many centuries later. So they're trying to solve this problem without violating the law. So here's what we read in Judges 21, verse 13 through 18. The whole congregation sent some to speak to the children of Israel in the rock of Ramon, and to call peaceably unto them. And Benjamin came again at that time, and they gave them wives. They had saved alive the women of the women Jabeshgilead, yet so they sufficed them not. And the people repented them for Benjamin, because the Lord had made a breach in the tribes of Israel. The elders of the congregation said, how shall we do for wives for them that remain? So the women are destroyed out of Benjamin. And there must be an inheritance for them. And they said, there must be an inheritance that escaped out of Benjamin, that tribe be not destroyed out of Israel. Howbeit we may not give them our wives for daughter, for the children of Israel have sworn, cursed be he that gives a wife to Benjamin. So their 4 months have passed, and it was called peaceably, just as the Levite had came to speak peaceably to his concubine that played the whore against him. A time of forgiveness is here. And to show it, they give them those 400 women, but they need 600. And notice, the women are destroyed out of Benjamin. They killed every one of the women. And notice who did this? The Lord made a breach in the tribes of Israel. This was the Lord's judgment. Everything he did was in accord with the Lord. Had nothing to do with any failure of Phinehas, as the rabbis teach. Phinehas didn't fail the Lord any way at all. He did what the law required, but now it's created this problem because of these oaths they had made. Well, we're going to continue in Judges 21, 19 to 22, and see what they're going to do to get the other 200 they need. Then they said, "Behold, there's a feast of the Lord in Shiloh yearly in a place which is on the north side of Bethel, on the east side of the highway that goes from Bethel to Shechem, and on the south of Lebonah. Therefore command the children of Israel, saying, Go and lie in wait in the vineyards. And behold, if the daughters of Shiloh come out to dance and dances, then come ye out of the vineyards and catch you every man his wife, the daughters of Shiloh, and go to the land of Benjamin. That shall be when their fathers or their brethren come to us to complain. We'll say to them, Be favorable to them for our sakes, because we reserved not each man his wife in the war. For you did not give unto them at this time, that you should be guilty. Okay, so basically it's just kidnapping. They kidnap these women and make them their wives, like gypsies in times past were prone to doing. So, and this feast of the Lord is tabernacles. The clears they wait in the vineyards. It's the feet is the ingathering of the grapes, the ingathering of the wine. So they're coming, and this what, and they're having this dance, and they're coming out in these dances, and these are in the daughters of Shiloh, a reference to the virgins. So these virgin women have this habit. It's just a local custom, like say your local craft fair or whatever. Well, their local custom at tabernacles, these people live in the area of Shiloh, indicating they're probably Levites. Is the unmarried girls go out and dance go out and dance from there to they reach the tabernacle until they reach the tabernacle for the celebration of tabernacles. So this tells us that remember those meadows 4 months earlier, third month, roughly around the time of Pentecost or Shavuot, is when that battle had happened. The grass was up sufficiently tall. Now 4 months have gone by, and they're in these vineyards, and their leafage is all full and blessed, hiding their presence. Now the fathers are guiltless because the fathers of the brothers are guiltless of breaking the oath because they didn't do it. They didn't voluntarily do it. They didn't give them to Benjamin. Benjamin stole them away, as it were. And they asked him to be favorable. And of course, part of that meant normally the moer, the bride price is paid. And honestly, it's just showing a transfer of care for the girl. The father has spent more than 50 shekels, 50 days' wages of a common worker was a common bride price. He spent way more than that raising her. He wasn't making a profit by selling it, by selling her, quote unquote. He certainly and the services she would continue to provide for him and caring for the house and whatever were probably worth more than that also. So why a moer? Why this price? Because it shows three things. Because men, first of all, men value what they have to pay for more than than something they get for free. But also shows something about the man. He is committed to the woman. He's shown he can hold down he can hold down a job, live below his means, and save up money. And he's committed to doing this to obtain this woman. So it gives the father some confidence he's going to take care of this woman after the father dies. That's the point of the moer. I mean, my son-in-law gave me a moer, and all I did with it was use it to help them go on a honeymoon. The things I said were the point of the moer. It's not I was selling my daughter. It was him showing me he was a man and not a boy. So this part of that, the complaint might be that, and they might there's plenty they could easily take a collection and give them their 50 shekels or whatever, whatever as well. So that's how they're going to solve. That's how they decide to solve this problem. Now we continue on Judges 20. We finish Judges 21, verse 35 through 25, and we read these words. And the children of Benjamin did so, and they took them wives according to the numbers of them that danced, whom they had caught, and they went and returned to their inheritance, repaired the cities, and dwelt in them. The children of Israel departed from there at that time, every man to his tribe and to his family, and they went out from there, every man to his inheritance. In those days, there was no king in Israel. Every man did what was right in his own eyes. Okay, so according to their number, they captured 200 of them, of these young girls, and took them off. And notice they went there and they repaired them. Now everyone just goes home. There's no king in Israel. There's no central authority. There's no if there'd been a king in Israel, this never would have occurred. Because when the men of Gibeah did what they did, the king would have shown up and destroyed Gibeah. But the police force, there'd been a police force. And but instead every man just does what's right in his own eyes. It's up to the individuals to act. And we've seen how well that works out. And this brings us to the end of the book of Judges, but not the end of the time of the judges. These are not the end of the judges. There's still 2 more judges left before the judge system ends and the king system begins. And also another event that occurs during the time of the judges, which we'll look at next week, is the story of Ruth occurs during this time as well. So remember, there's a war between the force of God, the force of good and evil, force of God and Satan. And there is no neutral ground. If you're not actively on God's side, then you are passively on Satan's side and will be treated as if you were actively on Satan's side. This is why Messiah said he'd rather have you hot or cold than lukewarm. Don't be lukewarm. Be hot for Messiah. Be hot for the Father. Be hot for the gospel, hot for the Torah. Don't be lukewarm. It's just not worth it. It will not save you from destruction any more than it did the people any more than it did all these people in Gibeah who should have stood up and didn't and did nothing, or people of Benjamin who stood by the people of Gibeah who did this wickedness against the people who came to execute judgment on them. Don't be on the side of the criminals. Be on the side of God. That's all I have for this week. Until next week, shalom.